Hey everyone, welcome back to White Sparrow Living, Luke 12:6. This is Wendy. If you're new here, I'm so happy you found us, and I hope you would consider subscribing if you like this video and give it a thumbs up. Today we're going to be doing 3 Valentine's Day farmhouse decor projects. All of the items are mostly from Dollar Tree, including this cute little mailbox, and this is kind of the paper mache material, and I love the little bike on the side, so we're going to keep that and give it a little makeover. This planter or flower pot, it's a plastic one with the bottom drainage bowl, and then a plunger of all things. Yes, it's gonna get beautiful, I promise. And then we'll also be using some random floral arrangements and sprigs. The spring bouquets are already out and in the Easter area. We're going to be using these long pink ones that are called amaranthus, and some old greenery that I found in my garage from some kind of arrangement. You can find these at yard sales, but it's pretty tore up. And then also some lamb's ear from Walmart. And then again, some more that I just found, random pieces that are old and should be thrown away, but I don't throw things away. Some styrofoam pieces, round if you can find it. Some of this is packing foam and some is round the round one is from Dollar Tree as well. And then some burlap ribbon. This is the pink that you've seen me use before. Some white chalk paint and some pink chalk paint. It's called Ballet Slipper, and I get these at Walmart. And then our regular supplies of the hot glue, a utility knife, scissors, a chenille stem, and our wire cutters. So the first thing we're going to do is paint our flower pot, and I just took the Ballet Slipper chalk paint and painted 2.5, kind of 3 coats on this, but I wanted it to be a little bit distressed, but we're going to use white chalk paint on top of it to kind of give more definition to the lines that you see on there, the indentations that go around, so those will kind of pop more. And then make sure that you paint a little bit in the inside where some of it will probably be showing, but the foliage should cover everything. But in case there's a piece that's sticking out or peeking through, we want to make sure that that's covered in pink as well. So I didn't really need to prep the plunger, but there was some sticky residue left over from the price tag or sticker. So I just took that off and used my sanding block to get that off. And then I just used my white chalk paint to paint this. The bottom portion and the top portion won't show, and a little bit of the middle will. So I just went ahead and painted the whole thing. Now I'm going to take my foam brush and just use some water to dilute my white chalk paint. And I'm just kind of using the side and brushing it on there very lightly just to kind of get the top layer of it so it doesn't go through to the little valleys of those lines. And then I did the top area, and I just wanted it to look real worn. And so we want this to be kind of messy and kind of rustic looking. So I just went all the way around on all of the lines that had, where there were any lines. And then I used my white chalk pen to make X's and O's all the way around. And when I was done, I felt like it kind of looked more like a southwestern pattern. And so in order to make it a little more fun looking and whimsical, I put little dots at the ends of all of my X's and in the upper right corner of my O's. And it turned out that when I made the X's and O's, it just happened to be the exact right dimensions as far as going all the way around the entire pot. So that was good. And then I made little hearts in between when there was XOXO, which to me is like one set of XOs, kisses and hugs. So I put little hearts in between just to make it more Valentine's-y. So even though I love the little bike on the side of the mailbox, I just felt like there was too much red showing. And I was thinking of maybe using the pink hearts from the wreath, but I decided to use some of this craft paper and just cut out a piece that would cover the red part top of the mailbox and hot glued that on, and then cut out a little heart to place over one of the balloons so it didn't look like the balloon was cut off. And then I notched out a little piece for where the flag is of the mailbox and then hot glued it all onto the top. Now I've had so many requests asking where I got my finger protectors, and so I will link the store. It's Amazon, but I'll link that in the description box. So if you want to order those, I have no affiliation or anything, and I'm not sponsored by them, but they do save my fingers, so I want to save yours. So now I'm going to make an X at the bottom of my mailbox using my utility knife, and this way I can push the plunger right through and it will be nice and sturdy. I didn't even glue this, and it just goes in there perfectly and stays in place. Now I'm going to unscrew the bottom portion of the plunger and hot glue that. And I put quite a bit of hot glue in here. You could use E6000 on this as well, but it's going to be light in the end, so it doesn't really need it. But if you want a more permanent hold, you can use that as well. So now I'm going to take the bottom portion of the stick of the plunger and pop it through the styrofoam and the foam round piece and make that all go through the pole, or the pole's going to go through the styrofoam, and then I'm going to twist it back into the plunger, the rubber plunger part, and then I will hot glue those two pieces together. And so that's where we're going to start sticking our foliage, so that that'll all be flowing out of the flower pot. So I first took the ivy, and this is more just a filler, and so that's why I wasn't worried about it being kind of torn up and missing lots and lots of leaves. I've probably used this in other DIYs, and it's kind of missing a lot, but it doesn't matter because it's just kind of for filler. And then I know that I want some greenery kind of flowing out of the pot so that it's not just all sticking up. And then I had the amaranthus. I have it sitting in front of me so I can remember the name, because I'll never remember that. I have a black thumb. No foliage ever lives in my house, but they were really overwhelming and they were way too big. So I ended up taking them off of the sprig and just using individual pieces and sticking those in there a lot lower so that they weren't so tall. And then after I added those, I'm going to add different pink flowers here and there and just kind of disperse it all the way around. I also added some lamb's ear, and this can be used on an island, which is probably where I'm going to put it. But if you have a place where you're putting it that you can see all sides, you want to make sure that your arrangement is pretty from all sides, so that you can set it anywhere. If it's being set on a wall or on your mantle or something, you don't have to worry so much about the back side. So now I'm going to make a bow for the top of the mailbox. Originally, I was going to have the lid, or not the lid, but the door of the mailbox open and have more flowers in there and hearts coming out. But I decided that the arrangement looked so pretty and it kind of blocked it. So I decided not to do that and just left it closed. So now I'm making this bow. I'm going to stick this on top of the mailbox, and I just did the fold over method, and I did 4 loops on each side, and then I made little notches all the way through each of those pieces of ribbon right in the middle. And then I'm going to take my chenille stem and wrap it around and kind of crunch this in the middle so that it gives it more body, and then wrap my chenille stem around and fluff out my bow. So using hot glue, I attached my bow to the top and then added a couple of leaves of lamb's ear and a couple of roses at the top. And then in the part where it's the missing leaves in my ivy, I added some of the roses and different flowers just to kind of fill it in. But here it is all done, and I am totally in love with this, and everything in the arrangement, aside from the first ivy that I stuck in there and the lamb's ear, all of those flowers and all of that foliage is from Dollar Tree, including the little berries. I had one little piece of that, and you can see just a little portion of the plunger, but I love it. I think it turned out so cute, and I'm really happy with it. I hope you guys like it too. And also, I just realized that I've been saying foliage wrong, and so it's foliage. So I'm sure I'm going to get some comments about that one. For our second project, we're going to be using 4 of these 4x6 frames, some tissue paper that I found in the gift wrapping area. I've been wanting to use this rose. I was really excited to find it. It's so pretty. I got this a while back though from Dollar Tree, but we're going to use it in this one. Some more of the pink burlap ribbon, some white and red paint pen, because I didn't have pink, so I thought I could make pink with this. My glue gun and scissors. And so the first thing we're going to do is get our frames taken apart, and you have to be super careful with these because they're very cheap. They're not wood. They're some kind of, I don't know, like heavy duty foam or something. So I took out the insides, and I'm using the little piece of paper that comes inside of it to use as a template to cut out my tissue paper, because that's going to be in the backing, or what's going to show inside the frame. And so when I was putting it in, I noticed it was really bright, and it's pretty this way, but I'm going to change it around as I go. So I'm going to write love on one letter per frame. And so I'm just kind of playing around with fonts and how I want to do it. And I'm actually going to show you guys how to do this in the writing tutorial that I am working on. And so these are just kind of how I'm figuring out what I'm going to do in the frames and trying to get them spaced correctly. And I just took the glass piece and drew around it so I would have the right size and could make my letters accordingly. So all I'm doing is making the downstrokes thicker, and I'm using a Sharpie because that usually will go through the paper, because I'm going to paint this onto the back of the glass, and so it's got to be the reverse side. I'll be painting it on there with the paint pens backwards. So we want this to go through so that on the back you're going to have what you're actually going to paint onto the glass, if that makes sense. So now that I can see where my letter is, I can just retrace it on to the back so that I'm getting the mirror image. And then I'm placing my glass on top of it, and then using my white paint pen, I'm going to trace the letter all the way around. After my letters are all dried, I placed the glass back into the frame, and then I went to put the tissue back, and I had a piece of white tissue on top of the brightly colored one, and I thought that that looked pretty good that way, so I was going to turn that around, and then it was a little bit too light. So in the end, I end up taking out the white piece of tissue and then just placing the pattern paper upside down, and so it was like a happy medium, and it was just subtle enough, but still you were able to see the pretty colors. And then I placed the paper back in and then closed it up. So I decided that under the light you could really see it, and it was pretty, but the white letters just didn't show up well enough outside of my craft room. So I'm going to go back in later and add some red to the top of the white. So now I'm going to make the O from the flower, and so I cut off the stem down as far as I could so that it wouldn't fall apart, and then I flipped over the green part in the back so that there would be more to hang on to when I hot glued it underneath. So I just used my hot glue and put it all over the leaves, and then put it in place and stuck it down wearing my finger protectors. This made it an easy job. So here it is with the white letters, and as you can see, it's hard to see, so we're gonna fix that. Originally I had wanted it to be 2 on top and 2 on bottom, instead of all the way, just flat. But either way is pretty cute. So now I'm taking the red paint pen and going over the white, and you have to kind of keep pushing the pen into paper or onto paper so that it makes the paint flow. And then that way it won't scratch the white that's already on there. So as long as it's nice and juicy, it goes on real smoothly and looks really pretty. So it wasn't as light as I would have liked it to be, but it was okay because it was still one of the shades that was in the tissue paper. And so if I had a pink paint pen, I definitely would have used that instead, but this is what I had, so I had to work with it and use what I had. So here it is if it was completely done, and it looks really cute, I think, this way on my piano. But you guys know me, I wanted to do more, and so I found this icky frame that has seen its day, and I actually got this out of my friend's shed, and it was all broken and warped and not even together. So I had to have Michael J put it together for me, do a little bit of surgery. And this is what rustic means. This is the real word of distressed, and I think it's really cute because it was very old looking, and so I like that part. So after I cleaned it off and rubbed it down, and Michael J fixed it for me and put it back together, it still didn't go together perfectly, but that's okay. Nothing's perfect. So I'm going to take some of my white chalk paint and add a kind of a light coat, more of a watered down version of some whitewashing, but a little further than just whitewash. So I go ahead and paint the entire frame, and it looked, I think, super good after I got it done. I decided to add some little highlights to my letters, and so from the top side of the glass I added some white lines on the left side of each of these, and then I put them together, and I'm gonna frame all four of them by adding some ribbon down the middles of each of those pairs. And so once I figured out my spacing, I'm going to turn my frame over and then measure how far in that is so that they'll be even. And then I'm going to hot glue the top and bottom of the ribbon to the back of the frame so that I can then hot glue the frames to the ribbon. So I had to take off the little stands in order to let the frames lay flat onto the ribbon, and so I just used my hot glue all the way down. You could staple the backs of the ribbon on the back of the frame, but these frames are so light, there's hardly any weight to them, so they're going to stay fine with the hot glue, I think. Now to cover the two corners where the frame was kind of coming apart, I just used these galvanized metal hearts from those Dollar Tree love signs and just placed one at the top and at the bottom to kind of hide what was going on there. And here it is all done, and I think it turned out really adorable. I love the colors, and even though it's a little brighter than I would have intended or liked, I still think it turned out super sweet. And I put it next to the mailbox, and I think they go together really well as well. now for our final project, I'm going to be using this welcome sign, and it's just the wood hearts in a row there, and then the infamous flower pot galvanized bucket, and then a pack of these 6-inch wooden dowels, some foam or styrofoam, whatever you have on hand. I just happen to have these, but you can get whatever from the Dollar Tree. And then some white and ballet slipper chalk paint. I get this at Walmart. I think I already told you that. And then some of this glitter vase filler. They have this in just the reds or the pinks. I have the pinks here. I'm only going to be using the baby's breath. I thought I was going to maybe use some flowers, but just the baby's breath. And then this little plaque, have a hippie day. And we're just going to be using the top part, that little medallion looking thing. And then the bistro chalk marker in black. And then my Cricut spatula to get that plaque off of the board. And then a sanding block. But I end up using my Rosary sander, the handheld sander. Black & Decker is what I use. And then my glue gun, my scissors, chenille stem, which I did not use, and then wire cutters. So I'm going to first take off that part of the sign, and it was on there pretty well, but I got it off and took all of the glue off of that. And you always want to do your painting first, so that's why I'm deconstructing these pieces first before doing anything else, so that the paint can dry. So I just pulled out the staples that were holding the ribbon to the backs, and put a coat of the white chalk paint onto the plaque. And then I was going to use my sanding block to get the glitter off of the hearts. But like I said, I just went ahead and used the sander so that it was a lot quicker. And so as you see, I always put my painting, the things I'm painting, on paper towels so that I can move them out of the way and then work on something else. These hearts had a lot of red paint on them, so the red was getting just everywhere, and that was when I tapped out and said I'm using the hand sander. So I put on a coat of the white paint and did that on all of the hearts, and then I'm going to go back in with some pink and do some shading. The hardest part of this project was trying to keep a handle on the hearts themselves while I was painting them. So after I got the first coat on, I mixed some white and some pink together, and I wanted to do the shading effect. So I put white on one side and then pink on the other, and then just started going around randomly just so that it wasn't solid in the color, white or pink. It was kind of both of them, and I think it was a really pretty finish. So this was kind of a catch-22. I should have put the dowels on first in order to paint the hearts a little easier. But at the same time, after I put the dowels on, it was a little harder to write on the hearts, which is what we'll do after this step, after the paint dries. But I painted the backs of the hearts and the dowels. And it's not going to show, but just in case it does, it'll be semi-pink. So now that my medallion or sign is ready, I was playing around with some fonts and trying to figure out which one to use. I decided to go with the kind of Ray Dunn looking font. And so I just did some really long letters. And on this style, you make the top portions of your letters real close to the top. So instead of putting the middle part of your E in the middle of your E, you're going to put it up towards the top. Same with the R, the rounded part of the R is going to go up towards the top. I kind of went off on my V, which then made me go off on my E, but it's okay. It's not perfect, but it's still pretty cute. So now we're going to be writing scriptures of Bible scriptures that have to do with love. So everyone knows John 3:16, but each of the hearts, as you see where this is going to have a scripture that has something to do with love. And so I thought this was a really good way to have conversation with your kids, or in my case, grandkids, and talk about the different scriptures and the love of God and how Jesus taught us to love one another. And you can just go through and look up each of these scriptures as part of your Valentine's Day ceremony or celebration. So after I wrote the scriptures on all of the hearts, I went back and outlined the hearts with my black paint pen, and I was going to do just a solid line, just nice and straight and nothing to it, but then I actually had messed up on one, and so decided enamelware it is. And so I love the look of enamelware anyway, so it gave it some more farmhousey style, and it's a lot easier to do. But if you are going to just keep it with the straight lines, when you're doing it with the paint pen, if you kind of just go in the middle of the little nub there, it'll guide you around. If you're doing it right in the corner there, it will stay in place and give you a straight line. So after the paint dried on all of these, I took some jute twine and just wrapped it around and made a little bow at the bottom. And then I took my hot glue and placed my styrofoam at the bottom of my tin. And I don't know if I made it clear, but these are from Dollar Tree as well. So now this mossy stuff, it's not even really moss, it's more like a straw stuff. That's from Home Goods. I got that for $2.99 for that bag. But now that it's Easter time, I'm sure you'll be able to find this anywhere. And I know Dollar Tree has the regular moss, so you don't have to use this particular kind. So I'm just going to place all my scriptures into the styrofoam, and then I put the moss into the bottom of that. And then I'm taking the white baby's breath, and I pulled off the leaves, and then there's two little bunches that are on each of those stems. So I pushed those together to make it more of a little fuller bunch, and then placed those pretty low in the piece so that it was just all about the hearts and they were sticking up further than the baby's breath. So now I'm going to take my hot glue and glue my sign to the front. And I kind of did an upside down triangle because the bottom portion is going to attach to the bottom of the planter. And then just pushing that in place, it is attached to the front. So now I'm going to take a needle and thread. I didn't put this in my supply list at the beginning, but I'm just knotting the thread, and I'm going to take that filler, and I separated out the white ones, and I didn't use the small ones, but then I took 5 of the pink ones, and we're going to be stringing these together and kind of making the beaded garland. So I kind of got the idea because I did have a couple of different color options here. I'm going to start with a pink one and then do 5 of the white ones and then another pink one. And I did that setup 3 times and then tied those together. And then I'm going to add some tassels and then more beads. And then it comes out where it's like crisscrossed. And the whole point was, I didn't mean to, but it came out kind of like a rosary, even though there's 10 of the what would be the white beads. I did just the 5 because that was, I could have made it longer, but that was the size I wanted. So it was just kind of a happy accident, and a little rosary is kind of how it turned out. I got these tassels from Dollar Tree, but it was a few years back, and they come two to a pack. I don't know that they still have them, but I used them for a graduation party, so I had a whole bunch left over. So I just put my needle through the top part of the tassel to tie it to, to tie it at the bottom, and then I started beading or putting my beads on above the tassel so that it was attached, and then did the other side once I tied it to the big loop. And here it is all done, and I just draped that garland over some of the hearts, and I think it turned out super cute, and I hope you guys like it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you are not already, I hope you would consider subscribing to my channel by hitting that big red subscribe button. And if you would leave a comment, let me know what you think. I love reading everybody's comments, and I do read every single one of them. I love hearing the stories that you have or scriptures that you love, and I love our little crafting family that we've grown to. I appreciate every one of you guys, and I thank you so much for watching. Everybody have a blessed day, and remember to always be the light. Bye.